Hi everyone, good morning. So today it's nice and sunny here. I was up till 2 a.m. applying for jobs, so I woke up a little later today. But today I'm doing my John Maxwell for yesterday and today because I didn't do it yesterday. I took the day off, which is rare for me, but once in a while it's good to do it. And for the message for today, it's leading across cultures. So we live in a world that has many diverse cultures. It has very different ways of thinking, different ways of being, and things that are outside of the church are growing. So worshiping Mother Nature, witchcraft, and all of those things are not denied in the Christian Bible. In fact, they call Jesus basically a magician, because he was doing things that magicians in those days did with his words, with performing multiplication of loaves and fishes. Those are things that were handed down in traditions that were outside of the mainstream traditions. And so they called him all kinds of names. They called him a devil. They called him all kinds of things. And so when we're leading across cultures, we have to remember what are we keeping at the heart of what we're doing? Are we keeping God at the heart of what we're doing? Or are we keeping some other thing at the heart of what we're doing? So there's a lot of things available today that you can buy that are not necessarily supportive of our faith. And at one time, those things were supported in the church. So things like Doreen Virtues, tarot cards, they were supported in the church at one time. You even had priests. You had priests that endorsed her work, that said, oh, there's nothing wrong with it, as long as you keep Christ at the center of what you're doing. And then she herself turned against it, and she said, what I'm doing is not right, and people shouldn't do this. We don't have a person in between us and God. We've never had that. We can speak to God directly. So yesterday, I watched this thing. There were these witches, and they actually look like witches when you look at them. They have these long noses, they dress in black, and they were talking about how witchcraft is growing in America, and how things that they do, like using necromancy, talking to the dead, manifesting, and all these things that they do, they don't see anything wrong with it. The way that we don't see anything wrong with praying in the church, and even using things like Ouija boards and all that. They're saying you have to just know which spirit you're dealing with, and you have to be careful with it, because you can't cast spells for love if you don't know how to love. You can't manifest things if you don't know how to manifest. So it's interesting to see how people use things to build up either good or evil in the world. And they also talk about energy. If you read up on the Jesuits and you read up on somebody like Teilhard de Chardin, he talks about energy, about how we are energy, and how energy is the fire of love and God in us. So that's just to say that when we are focusing on our traditions, we have to be careful with what we are doing and what we are saying. Many women got burned at the stake. Many women got beheaded and buried alive in Europe because people thought they were witches. So we have to be careful about how people perceive us and what they think of us. When we keep Christ at the heart of what we're doing, we're not witches. We're not turning to evil. We're not turning to magic. For us, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And what some of the women were saying, that they kept their faith, they practiced their faith, but despite that, they got turned away from the church, so they decided to become witches. and they went into this. And things like this are growing. They are growing. There are problems all over the world. And we have to decide, who are we going to follow? Are we going to choose to follow God, knowing there is no third party between us and God? Or are we going to choose to worship the earth or things like that? Because some of the things they do are things that we do in the Christian church. They have retreats, they go on nature walks, they do all the same things that we are doing, but they do it in the name of witchcraft. They have apothecary shops in England that you can go into, where you can buy wands and potents and spells and all that. They have a lot of that available, and it's mixed into the culture. So we have to be careful with what we are doing with our lives and how we are living our lives. And for us as Christians, I think the big thing is that when you experience loss in life, that loss in life is something everybody goes through, but we can help each other and we can ask God to fill that loss in our lives. The biggest loss you can have is loss of the land of your birth, the place you were born into. And it's a big loss because that's where your roots are, that's where your traditions come from, that's where you form your communities. And then you have to start over again in a different culture, a different place, get used to different traditions, and make that place your own, make that place your home. So for the scripture, he gives us Ezra 1, 2-4, and it's basically looking at how cultures are integrated. Unlike King Rehoboam, the Persian King Cyrus was able to connect with God's people. He first displayed mercy, then identified with the values and heart of his people. What enabled King Cyrus to connect with people? Ezra tells us he exhibited humility. He realized his power came from God and should honor God. Responsibility. He felt strongly he should build a place for worship for the Jews. Empowerment. He allowed those who had a heart to build to fulfill their call. Resources. He issued a decree to support the builders. Stewardship. He managed people's gifts. Priorities. He valued what the people valued. And the reflection question is, in what ways do you connect with others? And for today, the scripture is Proverbs 5, 21-23, character before talent. And so this one is basically looking at how all our ways are before the eyes of the Lord, and he ponders our paths. Just as we ponder what God is, the creation, the universe, God ponders our paths too. And we see that it's our own iniquities that entrap us in the end. The scripture says, for the ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord, and he ponders all his paths. His own iniquities entrap the wicked man, and he is caught in the cords of his sin. He shall die for lack of instruction, and in the greatness of his folly he shall go astray. So basically he's asking the question here, how many leaders have ruined their lives and damaged the lives of others through immorality? Character has become a crucial issue today precisely because of the myriad leaders in the political, business, and religious worlds who have fallen morally. No doubt they partly fall because the enemy has targeted leaders for attack. Leaders need to remember that they influence many others beyond themselves. They never fall in a vacuum. They also need to realize that replacing fallen leaders is a slow and difficult process. How can we guard against falling? First, we must take care not to emphasize the gifts of a leader over his or her character. We must strike the following balance if we are to finish well. Gift deposited equals character built. What I am, what I do, and then the result. So if I am humble, I rely on God, and the result is God's power. If I'm a visionary, I set goals, and the result is high morale. If I'm convictional, I do right, and I build credibility. And the question for reflection is, how well are you maintaining the balance between your character and gift? So those are important questions for us to reflect on and for us to take with us into the little things we do in life, whether it's keeping our places clean or building homes or getting jobs. We take those things into what we're doing and we set small goals along the way. We don't have to do big things, but when we look back, we can see how those things lead to greater things for God and for building up God's kingdom. So for this month, I have a few more courses coming up through HRPA. And then in November, I've signed up for more. And sometimes they are back to back, and it's a lot of information to take in. But I might as well use this time productively, because the job loss is a big loss. It's like losing your spouse when you lose your job. And I've lost many jobs in Canada, so it's devastating. But it's not what kills me, because I have God at the center of what I do, and that is what I hold on to. And that is what helps to sustain me and helps to keep me going. And then also when we look at diverse cultures, we see that diversity in different areas. So you see that in Africa they have that same thing where they consult with the bones, they consult with dead leaves, they consult, some people even take an egg and they put that egg in a water and they say that from that they can get a reading. So, I don't know. Anyway, I'm just giving you examples. And for us, we don't believe that we can predict our future. We can try to put things in place to bring about good results for our lives, but ultimately we don't know how our lives are going to turn out. Whether it's getting a disease or meeting up in an accident or having thefts like we had in Zimbabwe, we don't know why those things happen, but God has His own plan. God has His own path that He has for us. And many of these priests that I started with now, I'm a little frightened of them. I keep my distance. They're all big shots now. But I wanted to share the scripture, Psalm 4:1. Answer me when I call to you, my righteous God. Give me relief from my distress. Have mercy on me and hear my prayer. Only you, Lord, can take whatever loss I experience and fill that empty place with good. Only you can take the burden of my grief and pain and dry my tears. And I think that's a nice one for us to hold on to in times of loss, in times of losing things. And for me, I also know I've built up a lot of good faith in Canada, because when Marco Mendocino used to have his town halls, they don't have them anymore. But they used to have town halls where they used to honor the military. And I used to go to those. And I used to give a little bit of money to the cadets and to support our military here in Canada. And just honor their lives and their families' lives. They had, when I used to go, he had one town hall where he had all their pictures. And they had veterans there saying how the military in Canada don't get as much support as the military in America. They don't get as many discounts and housing and all that like the military in America get. So I took opportunities to learn about this country, to go out to see things, and just to sit and listen to the ministers and listen to what they had to say. I always sit at the back of the room. I sit right at the back, and then I listen. And I used to also speak for the one campaign occasionally when they used to ask me. So these are ways that when you're living in a culture that has very different elements to it and very different ideas, you can go out and you can learn. Because they used to invite me, so I used to go. And many times they were during the day, they were at locations close to the subway, so I didn't have to walk very far. And all of those things helped me. When they have events today and you have to take 2 buses and 3 trains, and I don't go. I don't. Because it's too much effort for me. If they do it online, then I join in online as well. But that's just to say that's how you can learn about the culture of your new country. That's how you can integrate. That's how you can adapt. And even with the priests, I've been lucky because Father Larry Marcel has been our parish priest from the time I joined that parish. So he's been somebody that's been stable for us in the community. Some people don't get that. They move the priest often. So it's nice to have him in our parish. But these priests are very, very highly qualified, and they're very highly educated. Peter Knox, when he was our chaplain, he started with us. He used to come to the chaplaincy for a whole year. We never knew. He used to come and observe us and see what we were doing. We never knew. Then he became our chaplain, and then he was very different to Graham. And Graham Fusion was the one that took me into the chaplaincy. And now I looked him up. I'm like, oh, I'm a little frightened of this man. He's a doctor in the church. He speaks like how many? Portuguese, English, German, French. He's learning Spanish. I was like, Cosa. I was like, oh, you don't know these people anymore. So that's what happens when you stay away from a place a long time and you don't see people, you don't talk to them. They're very highly qualified and they hold big, big portfolios. He teaches in the university in Africa. So I'm like, oh yeah, your life, what happened to your life? Look at what big things these guys have done. And even Damian Howard, Damian became the head of the Jesuits in Britain. I'm like, you better stay far away from these people. Your life is nothing compared to them. You do your small things at home, okay? Clean your house, go to the church, say the rosary. You keep your distance with these people. So, anyway, that's why I told Cyril Ramaphosa to take me. And I can teach the poor. I don't have to do what they do. They are all big shots. They're all big shots. Even Kevin Kelly, he's a big shot now. He's doing things in Montreal. I went to his graduation. Trevor Scott, he's also a big shot now. He's running all these webinars and everything for the Jesuits. I don't know why they left me out of everything. But anyway, I keep my faith at home. And I work in the banks and I help to challenge them. And they start crying. Now, I don't know why they start crying, but I mean, I saved them from going to jail. They should be grateful to me. Not take me and have me taken to the police station. So, anyway, it didn't work out the way I wanted. I also wanted to teach in the universities and get teaching positions and be able to teach my theology that way. So this opened up for me. So that's why I'm doing it this way. And who knows, maybe Papa John will help open doors for me. Maybe he'll help me to get an income coming in. You just have to be open to it sometimes. They're big losses for me because I still keep in touch with Peter Knox now and again, but it's like maybe once a year or something to tell him what I'm doing. But it's a big loss when you can't go, you can't meet people, you can't see them face to face. And part of that is the finances, the economics. But that's my lot in life, so I might as well accept it and move forward and ask God to keep opening those doors for me. And that's how I do it in a diverse culture. Because I face the same challenges in England, but in England, I was with the sisters, so I spent a lot of time with them. I did things with them. It's very different to doing it on your own. Yes, I have the John Maxwell team, but it's a different spirituality. It's not Catholic-based, this. This is not Catholic-based. I bring in the saints, I bring in my experiences, but this is based on a friend of mine brought me in because she saw how badly I was being treated in Canada. And it helps. It helps because it's a different perspective to life. And it's also a different perspective to us. When we're living in a culture where people are expected to integrate, and that's how we have to do it.